Hello, my name is Linda Vickers, and I'm your host here today. Now, I've just met a new friend who carries a very strong message of hope. Her name's Joni Killius. She's an MBA accountant, a life changer, and a thriving survivor. And I want you to welcome Joni. I know you're going to be inspired by her story. So Joni, the little bit that you've told me about, you are certainly an overcomer. I'm not sure where you want to start with the story because it's jam-packed full of just so much that you've been able to overcome, and it's so inspiring and so encouraging. I know people will be encouraged by this. You had said that you grew up in foster care, and you had cancer at age 18. So where do you want to go with that? We'll start there.
Yeah. So started out foster care, very broken home. I was adopted by the foster parents. We had a large family, special needs. And when I turned 18, I was diagnosed with skin cancer. Wasn't given a very good prognosis.
Okay.
God showed out. I was raised in a believer's home, so I did believe and had accepted Christ and was active in my church, even as a young age. So I had the belief in God, and there was multiple surgeries, and they wanted me to participate in some preventative treatments. But I was young, and I wanted to, have a family one day, so I chose not to. One of the first surgeries was exploratory that told that the cancer had metastasized to the lymph nodes in my groin, and that we were looking at probably about 6 months. I was 18.
Oh my gosh.
And was scared, but we went to the church and was prayed over. When we went back in 2 weeks, they were going in to remove the other lymph nodes, do a biopsy on the spot, and then continue on with whatever they found, or depending on whatever they found. When they went back in, they found no cancer.
Wow.
No further
Wow.
cancer. So
nothing at all.
Nothing more. You have 4 lymph nodes in your groin area, and the first surgery had removed 2. Those 2 were completely eat up with cancer. When they went back in, the other 2 had no cancer.
And initially they said that they did.
Yes. And yes. They assumed that they did because the other 2 were, and that's one of your first filter points. Other than the lymph nodes behind your knee, which usually they say don't show much, but
wow.
We're talking a good 20-25 years ago.
And they gave you 6 months at that. They gave you 6 months.
And so it was new at that time, and so we chose not to do any kind of preventative because they believed they had gotten it all with surgery, and there was, we went through the CAT scans and the annual checkups and the constant monitoring, and had reached, points in life, began to happen for me, marriage and children and things like that. And we reached 15 years, and we're thinking, yes, I'm in remission. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Yes, I'm a little bit more mindful of my sunblock. I was more mindful of, not getting sunburned and getting annual checkups, skin checks. I do live in Florida, and it's just a smart thing to do. It's good self-care.
Yep.
And life again was happening. I was working corporate America in accounting. I had gotten my master's. I was actually working on my doctorate. We were pregnant with child number 4. Owned my home. We owned our home. We were doing really well. We were living what we thought was the American dream. Literally, we just bought a house. We just bought a new car. Life was great. And
how old were your kids at this point?
okay, so Evan 15, so my oldest would have been 10, 11. And then Braden is about 4 years younger. And then Lindsay was another, so we're 2, 3, and 11.
Okay.
And I was pregnant with number 4, Evan. And noticed a knot, but they couldn't do anything because I was pregnant. So I had my son and didn't give it more thought, new baby, adjusting to having a baby and working somewhat from home and working on my doctorate. I didn't give it much more thought. I didn't give that self-care time to schedule the appointment to follow up after the fact.
Well, and you had 3 little kids at that point.
Yeah, 3 little. Yeah, we had 3 under the age. Yeah, 3 under the age of 5.
Yeah,
and or actually 3 under the age of 3. And life was busy. We were doing a lot. So then it came to a point later that year. I had a miscarriage, and in not knowing, for one, that I was pregnant and what was going on, I was just thinking that something was seriously wrong with my period. Ended up going to the emergency room because this wasn't right, what was happening. And that's when we found out it was a miscarriage. And they again noticed some spots on my liver that needed to be followed up on.
Okay.
At this time, I had left my corporate job and was, a business owner. Doing my own bookkeeping and tax services. I had also signed up with a multi-level network marketing business at the time. So I had 2 businesses plus a bunch of little ones. My husband owned his own business, and we had no medical insurance. I mean, the kids had state medical insurance, but I had none. And so I did not get the follow-up care that I needed at that time. And this was in October of 2014. No, I'm sorry, 15. In March of 2016, we were having a lot of things going on. Life was starting to crumble. Bills were starting to pile up because I wasn't in my corporate job, and things were just, my health was not doing good. And
if you're not feeling well, it's hard to focus on your business.
Yeah.
It's hard to focus on anything. Yeah.
And life, it was crumbling around. Well, there was the tension in my marriage was beginning, and we weren't getting along. We were always arguing, and it was a really hard point. And I took on that I can do it attitude and was moving a lot of stuff and started hurting really bad in my side. And we actually, my husband and I had separated temporarily at this time because the arguing was just getting so bad. And it was getting, really unsurmountable at that point. And then I ended up in the hospital in the emergency room. I had almost ruptured some of the tumors. It was severe enough. They had me on morphine. And within a matter of time, they were doing all the biopsies and everything like that, and confirmed that it was melanoma that had metastasized to my liver. About 40% of my liver was completely eat up. They did not recommend any kind of surgery. Well, one cancer center recommended surgery. And then I was pretty adamant on getting back over to Moffitt, who had treated me the first time with the melanoma. So through a series of events and bad choices, not being able to manage our emotions, our impulses, the insurmountable amount of trauma after trauma. We ended up with going through bankruptcy and foreclosure, substance abuse, domestic violence. We lost everything, down to just the point of God brought us to full surrender. Brought me to full surrender. My husband too.
So did you end up having a surgery?
No, we ended up doing immunotherapy. We started out with Keytruda, and we did 2 years of that. And in between, yeah, I didn't even part of that cancer story. We were 2 years on the Keytruda, and the tumors were shrinking. We were told the best that we could hope for is that we could remain stable. We could pray for some shrinking, but that we weren't going to see much. That I had spent, that they give me a year at best, and I had just spent the last 9 months pregnant with our 5th child, Nicholas. So that brought us up to the point when they started treatment. They went aggressive and they went quick, because if we were going to do something, we had to move now. There was no time to think about it or explore our options. We prayed for a certain mutation so that it would be an easier treatment. The treatment itself was not so bad. It caused some issues with some inflammatory triggers in my body, that also I have a couple of autoimmune system disorders that it triggered those as well. And then the medications for the autoimmunes played against the cancer treatment. So it was a battle, a battle.
You wouldn't have been feeling well at all.
It was a team effort, and I'm very thankful for the team that God put together. But brought us up to 2 years of Keytruda, and okay, we were at the end of it, and we saw good things, but then they were like, well, let's follow up with this. At the end of the Keytruda, the tumors were starting to grow again, and that's not what we wanted at all.
No.
So they switched me to another more aggressive round of immunotherapy, and piggybacked another one on with it. Opdivo and Norvay. I'm not sure the clinical names on those, but anyway, so I got 3 rounds, which was about 12 weeks worth of treatments, and found out that I was pregnant. And we were told to terminate. That I had already received treatments. Mind you, we were still in the middle of trying to recover from a couple of years of bad things with DCF, bad choices, domestic violence and all of that. So we, at that point in time, we were coming out of, we thought we were coming out of, and this news that not only was I pregnant, but the cancer was growing, the change of treatments, it compiled with a couple of other, things that we really couldn't control. It sent us into that final descent, to where, again, we were completely homeless. Our kids were back in the system because we had placed them there this time. We, as parents, we had nowhere to go. The house we were leasing, they no longer wanted to renew our lease and sold it out from underneath us. We were on a tight budget because the only income that we had at this time was my Social Security disability. We had gotten that going, and the insurance and things like that. So it was crushing, in the fact that I could not make that decision, and it sent me into a spot to where I give up. I had lost all hope. I had lost all control. I couldn't do anything about anything, and I wanted to. I tried a couple of times. Not to the point of raising any concern, but I didn't want to live anymore. And I did everything that I could to numb it. And that landed me in jail, pregnant, needing cancer treatment. And it was there that God really showed me that I can't do it. And it's not on me. It's through full surrender, and only God could do it at this point. And throwing my hands up and telling God I didn't know what to do. I had made a mess. You know, if I'm going to live, if my child's going to live, whatever is going to happen, it's going to happen. And there is absolutely nothing I can do. I'm completely 100% at your mercy. And it was, the state attorney was obviously and rightly so very angry at me and was trying to throw the book at me. My daughter, I was 24 weeks pregnant when I had my first ultrasound, and the hospital's ultrasound tech did not like what she saw. And within a couple of weeks, I was going for several level 2 and level 3 ultrasounds. It was discovered that my daughter had a heart defect that was likely not sustainable to life. There was a couple of possible surgeries that would piggyback each other, but it would just depend on what they found when she actually arrived. Meanwhile, we don't know what was going on with the cancer. The jail wasn't worried about that, just worried about my daughter at that time. I went to several appointments in the back of a paddy wagon, handcuffed through the hospital at the Children's Hospital so that she could get the cardiac level of ultrasounds and echoes and things like that done. So again, state attorney was not happy with me. And when my public defender found out exactly what was going on medical wise with me and my daughter, she said, this is a capital case. I can't keep you in county jail, and we can't take on the liability of your life or your daughter's life. And so that was God used that opportunity to set the shackles free, literally. Yes, I was still on GPS monitoring, and I had extremely strict probation orders. One slip and I was done. I would lose everything. My kids would be adopted, and I would possibly have criminal charges brought about.
So just to clarify, you're in jail because of addictions?
Yes, I had got caught with possession and violated. I had probation from that and violated probation because I couldn't get clean and stay clean.
Okay.
At that time.
Okay.
I was in jail for violation of probation due to a dirty urine and pregnant. So it was a moment where I just really, so the public defender fights for my life, takes it on as a capital case, and God lays it on the heart of the state attorney to literally, this is your one chance only. So I knew that I had to fly. This was my only chance. And what I did with it would be all up to me. And I cried out for his help, and he did. Through the series of events following, but it was hard. Yeah, it was hard. I had curfew. I had to get a court order to be able to go to the hospital, to stay with my daughter during open heart surgeries. Meanwhile, I'm still on supervised visitation with my other kids. And I really did not have, coming out of jail, I didn't have a really safe place to stay.
So where was your husband in all this?
My husband was, he was living with friends at the time and trying to, figure all of this out. He was lost, didn't really understand or know what to do either. And he was doing his best to get all the paperwork for the lawyer to help. Then also DCF was working with him so that when I got out, we both were able to get into some treatment programs. And through efforts with so many different agencies, it was able to happen that we moved in with his mom and moved our kids in with, our kids were always with family. They never got put into an actual foster home, and that we are forever grateful for. So they still had that stability, and it's still very much part of our support system. That, you know, and I'll forever be thankful and grateful for that. So it was God moving in ways, and I was able to, the day that Trinity, our youngest, passed away after multiple open heart surgeries and heart catheterizations to try and save her life, it came to the point to where that morning I cried out to God, if you're going to take her today, because I couldn't take the roller coaster of the daily up and down with everything else. It was just to the point, if this is going to be my cross to carry, let me know. If not, I can't anymore.
I'm so sorry.
And
that must have been so hard.
Later that afternoon, he did take her in. I knew that day, that thinking back, that all those times that I was crying out to God to heal my daughter, it wasn't her that was being healed. It was me. And the power that, the way that day, mind you, my probation officer, she was very, very strict. She said, I don't think you're going to make it. I'm going to see you back in here. I'm going to end up violating you. And it was harsh. It was, but you know what? I needed it, because I knew that if it was only God, it was the only reason why I was sitting across that desk from her. So this was my only opportunity. And I knew the way she was saying was wrong. So, but for her and guardian ad litem and the Department of Children and Families and the courts and the judges and the lawyers and everybody to come together on one day and make it happen for my husband and myself to be in a safe spot to where we didn't use, for our family to be held together to where I could be where I needed to be emotionally, and so that we could heal as a family. It happened. God made it happen. And dealing with the court systems for the last 4 years, that all in itself is a miracle to me. So it happened that we were able to be in that safe spot, and that's where God used us to fully restore everything. That was in and September being recovery month. This is why I'm kind of touching more on this part of my story. Is that God used the one thing that was breaking us and killing us to save our life, and put us in a very humble spot to where if it was going to happen, this is where it would be. And one thing after the other was restored, and the clarity and just the momentum of all of that was there. In February of 2020, we were able to pay off all of our fines. We paid off all the probation. I was off of probation a couple months early. We were completely finished with all of our parenting classes, substance abuse, domestic violence, marriage counseling, family home visits. We were financially stable enough to show that we could take care of the kids from a financial standpoint, that they were safe, healthy, doing great in school. We got a driver's license back. We were able to get a vehicle. We were able to purchase a home. I finished my cancer treatments and have been, we have not heard the words remission, but the level of, the largest tumor was 7.5 by 9 centimeters. My the tumors, what they find now on the CT scans are residual dead cancer cells that don't measure more than a 0.1 centimeter.
And that's a huge difference.
That's it's just
Yeah.
absolutely it's a miracle. It's and my oncologist is just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but that brought us to where we were buying a home, and you know, we had done, and God had done some amazing things, and many blessings, and so many different forms, whether it be financial or the people or the connections or just putting us in the right spot. I still struggled with some health challenges. I still felt I couldn't understand why I wasn't happy, I couldn't think clear. You know, things were still weighing on me. And a friend reached out to me and introduced me to a product, some products that literally changed my life from a health standpoint, and really kicked my self-care and my self-love to heal in a different way, to take care of my body, because my nutrition was crap. I was just barely surviving. I was downing coffee and sodas and not understanding why I was getting, you know, having an anxiety or something going on when I'm bombarded by all the kids, and you know, we're on lockdown with COVID. And I was blessed because I needed that time with my kids, that one-on-one,
Yes.
to do that virtual learning, because I had already been separated from them for so long.
Yeah,
So I welcomed being home with them. And I had just spent 18 months on basically on house arrest, GPS monitoring. So it wasn't anything to be quarantined to the house, more or less.
And it's kind of a strange blessing to be locked down with your kids.
Yeah, it was, but I was still struggling to get through, and then my gut health being wrecked from all the treatments and you know, antibiotics and just things like that. This product helped so much with all of that and gave that quality of life back. And knowing now, you know, that your gut health and your mental health are tied together, and
Yeah.
they play a big effect. And I knew that my mental health needed some work on. And so when this product really literally changed my life, as far as in giving me my life back in a different area, that's when I became a promoter for the products, and it lit up other fires in my soul and really said, you know what, this is God has a story and a message through everybody's life path. And
Yes.
no matter what the details are that gets you from here to here, the pain, the disappointments, the letdowns, the hopes, the dreams, the fears, it's still the same for everyone. And that some part of someone's story can impact you.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about that. One person that really impacted me during my time of surrender and walking in the fullness of who I am in Christ. And that was really I'm sorry, he's really on my heart today. He lost his mom 2 days ago, but he has always been an example of a godly life. And I know that his heart hurts. He was the example, and held my hand and literally held me at my daughter's funeral, and things that he said and the way that he's just to lead that life that God has for each of us. It's just really amazing.
Yeah. Well, Joni, you've been through a lot. But like you said at the beginning, or like we had said at the beginning, you are not just a survivor, but you do thrive at what you do. To think that was just a year ago, where you were just building everything back again, and now you've got you told me earlier you have 2 cars paid for, you have a house, your family's back together, and you've paid off all your bills. Like that's
Yeah.
so amazing. Just to like for you and your husband to be together. That's just God's blessing wrapping you up in a bow, really.
Yeah,
Just
it was really
hard work.
It's
I'm
God.
sure it was a lot
It's
of
only
hard
God, because there was many times when I really don't know. And it's really been only God that's kept me where, or kept us together and where we need to be, because there was many times when everything was trying to pull us apart,
Sure.
whether it be the system or the way things were, or, you know, our own insecurities and doubts. And I'm not going to say our marriage is perfect by no means. You know, we still have things that we want to work on. We still have goals and visions on where we want to be.
But you've worked
And,
really
you know,
hard.
there's times that, you know, we say, and it's been said a couple of times here lately, that, you know, we're not so far from the fire that we can't still smell the smoke and the heat.
Yeah.
And there's still healing going on. But we know that when we are intentional, whatever you're intentional on is going to grow. And if we're tired, hey, we're tired of this has got to change, or this is, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It's something that's just going to take, and you just can't give up. You got to stay consistent.
So would you consider that your life lesson then? Just how would you describe what you've learned in the past few years?
The past few years, if I was to sum up my life lesson, it would be to, for one, full on trust God. What He can do in you and through you is just absolutely amazing. Love yourself. Love yourself. Love you, because when you are treating you right and you truly love yourself and love as God loves, you show everyone else how to take care of you. You show everyone else how to treat you. You are able to help set healthy boundaries. You have a better mental mindset. And if you are allowing God to control, then everything will fall into place from there. But make sure you love yourself and love God. I do make sure that I have a routine and I have non-negotiable time, that I make sure that I'm filling myself, 1, with my Bible devotions, 2, with my vitamins, and 3, I set my intent for the day. This is what we're going to focus on today, that helps keep me grounded and focused and not off to whatever next shiny object. Right. The devil likes to dangle.
Yeah, for sure. I totally hear you with the like love yourself, because I think a lot of women especially, we tend to we help everybody else first.
Mm-hmm.
And God said love Him and then love yourself. And He says, like, love is patient, love is kind. It's like, do we treat ourselves that way? It's easy to treat other people that way, but when we look at that whole Corinthians verse, love is that how we treat ourselves? So I've been really looking at that. I think as women, we need to learn that. That can go a long way. And to teach our families the same thing, because when we look after ourselves, when we love ourselves, like you said, it teaches other people how to love us, but how to love themselves as well.
Yes, and it helps set those healthy boundaries, that when you know that, no, I'm not going to accept that, that's not for me, that's not God's. Because when you struggle with acceptance and not feeling like you have anyone, you become a people pleaser. You want to do for everybody else because you want to feel that love and acceptance, and not having that throughout my life at different moments in the ways that I naturally would think that I would need. It opens you up into accepting treatment from, whether it be a domestic violence situation, or you're able to set those boundaries to where you're not hurt, and you teach people to how to treat you.
Yeah.
And what you are going to accept or not accept.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but the vision of a doormat. You don't become a doormat for others.
Right.
And when you struggle with wanting to be accepted and loved, you become that because you're just wanting to give, but you're not asking for your needs and making sure your needs are met.
Yep. Yep. I want to thank you for sharing all this today. I know that you're going to, you know, your heart is being heard, and it will be helping people that are going to be hearing your story. And I just really appreciate your time. It's you've been through a lot, and just even lately you've been through a lot. So thank you for your time and for your just you were able to share today. So thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll talk again.
Yes, I'd love to.
Thank you.